I'm Amy,
I'm April,
certified sex educators, sexperts of the year, and best-selling authors.
and we're on a mission to help you have more spicy, connected, and amazing shameless sex.
Welcome to the Shameless Sex Revolution.
We're so close, it's like we have our own language. We're making sex and relationships shameless.
To learn more, go to shamelesssex.com.
And for 15% off some of our favorite sex toys, use code SHAMELESSSEX at purepleasureshop.com.
You were listening to a Pleasure Podcast. For more from our Sex Podcast Collective, visit pleasurepodcasts.com.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to your bonus episode for the month of August. Anal August, actually. Ooh, one of our favorite months. There's always a theme for every month. And the ones that start with the A's usually get anal. Although April of Shameless Sex is like, maybe April can actually be April, but like about my favorite sex toys. I was like, okay, we can do that too. But maybe we can add some anal in there. But anyways, for anyone new to Shameless Sex, we release episodes every Tuesday. We've never missed a Tuesday since 2017. And then once a month, we like to try to offer a bonus episode for you on a Friday that is ad-free. We love our advertisers. We have advertisers that we are very particular about. We don't work with just anyone, and they help keep us afloat. So please be patient when you hear the ads in our podcast to know that it's what makes it free for you. And anything we're talking about, if you want to support them, we stand by them. But this one doesn't have ads for you. So there you go. We can just dive in and play. This episode is actually, I'll read the bio for you and I'll give you a little background story. So with Pretty Ink. Pretty Ink is a Black female solo developer passionate about sex, immersive gaming, and good storytelling. Her current project under Pretty Ink Games is College Craze, an adult dating and life simulation. I was going to say simulation game. Her mission is to make sex-positive games for the female gaze. To learn more or try a free demo, go to prettyinkgames.com and we will have the link in the episode's description. So if you don't remember that, we'll remind you at the end. And before we have the lovely Pretty Ink speak more, I got an email from Pretty Ink a number of months ago, maybe a year ago, about the game and free demo. And I was like, I like free things. And so I tried the game. I was like, I really like this. And I'm not a gamer. When I was a kid, I was into like Super Nintendo and like Mario Brothers and Street Fighter, I think were the only games I had. So I liked games, but as an adult, it hasn't been my thing. And so I tried this game out and it was like just so much fun, but also like super sexy and turned me on a lot. And it has all these different angles you can take. It's like a choose your own adventure game. And so I was telling April about this, like, oh my, I like last night I was playing this game for like 3 to 4 hours. I'm like obsessed with it. And she's like, you're into games now? I'm like, only this one, because I have tried to look up other games that are similar for like more like for the female gaze. Although I'm pretty sure plenty of men are getting off to this too. And there's tons of games out there that you can download. And I checked out a couple of them and I'm like, it's just not the same for various reasons. Some of them seem like they kind of took things like a little too far, at least for my liking. Some of them were kind of like the typical anime vibes where all of the women had like the huge breast, but like no waist and like just like no one anyone could relate to. So anyways, I love this game and I've been following and supporting Pretty Ink on Patreon ever since then. And a new season came out. So this is why this is near and dear to my heart. And I think everyone should listen to this episode and check out the free demo. What do you have to lose? So that's enough about Amy's perspectives. Maybe they'll weave in later, but dearest Pretty Ink, can you please tell us, meaning me and our listeners, a little bit more about how you got to where you are today in the field of becoming a content creator?
Yes, absolutely. And before I get into that, I just want to say thank you so much for all those kind words. I don't talk to too many people in person about my game because it's sort of this whole like separate hidden life that I have. And so it's really just really nice to hear those nice things and that it's affected people in the way that I want it to. So thank you. As far as how I got into this and becoming a content creator for a very niche, very specific sort of thing. It was a pandemic project. So
I love a good pandemic
yeah,
project.
it's how they all start, you know?
Yeah.
And it was actually one of many pandemic projects. I think I'd gotten through my sourdough making phase like everybody else. Um, and that was, you know, that was a whole ordeal. I was so upset about starters and all that sort of stuff. So got through that. And then I decided I wanted to write a novel. And I'd done that before a couple times in my life, but I'd never published anything. And this was more just like, I hadn't written in years and I just wanted to like get back in touch with my creative side. So I decided to tell myself just write every single day. It doesn't matter if it's a word, it doesn't matter if it makes no sense. Just get to the computer, get to the Word document, type something. And most days than not, like even if I wasn't feeling it, I'll get a sentence out and, you know, get back to it later kind of thing. But after about a year, I ended up with a novel. It was 111,000 words, I believe.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, we wrote a book and they asked for us for the book Shameless Sex that also was a pandemic project. They asked for 75 to 85,000 words and we sent them 100,000. They cut out 25,000.
Yeah. And that's the thing with writing. It's like you can't edit an empty page. I always say that. So even if you think that whatever you're writing is crap, get it out on a page because you can fix it later.
Yeah.
So I did that. And as I was nearing the end of the novel, I was like, oh, well, I'm going to need something else because I really enjoy doing this. And I started playing a game called Good Girl Gone Bad by Ava Kiss. And it is a sex, like a, what do you call it? Porn type of game with a female main protagonist. And, you know, you choose your own adventure, similar sort of structure as mine. But there were a lot of things that I found as I was playing it that I wished were different. And I was like, you know what? What if I just try making a video game and just put all the things in it that I want? And so that was the thing that I did literally the day after I was done writing my novel. I immediately started making a video game. And I hadn't really done that before. I learned a lot of stuff. And it's really launched since then. It's been an incredible journey. And I'm so happy that I decided to make that decision.
And how long ago? So this pandemic project. So you started working. Well, you wrote the book, but so when was College Craze released?
I believe the demo I put out 2021, early 2021,
Okay.
and that at the time the demo was super short. It was like I think from the start of the game until the main character can like I think she sees Gabe and Blair in the cafe closet. Like that was basically the demo. You choose your club and that's about it.
Okay.
And then from there I updated chapter by chapter about every 3 months or so.
Okay. I can't even imagine the process because again, not making this about our book, but our book Shameless Sex is also kind of a choose your own adventure, but it's a book. Choose your own adventure is trademarked everyone's. Ours is a choose your own pleasure path, but inspired from the like you make choice points and isn't about someone else telling you who you should be or what you should do. And so it's like one of the writing it, we'd write something and then it would give you the options because the question isn't about like the answer isn't like well, here's what you should do. It's more well, what's the outcome that you want if you're having this issue or this desire? And we give these different outcomes. As some of them go into the past, present, future. And it was a lot for the brain. And I would imagine creating something where, and I was going to ask you this later, but I still would imagine like creating all these options that go to different places is quite a process within a game.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. I very quickly realized like Good Girl Gone Bad is a cool game. There's some things in there that I think are a little, you know, not for my taste for sure, but I
think that's one of the other ones I downloaded.
Yes, it's usually talked about in the same sort of breath. I think these days when people are like, "Oh, is there another game like College Craze?" A lot of people suggest Good Girl Gone Bad or vice versa.
Yeah,
and I'm you know, it was inspired by that game for sure because there wasn't any other game out there that was branching like that with a female protagonist, but it just didn't feel super, to me at least, it didn't feel like it was the right game for me 100%. And I like that game, but like I felt like it was like almost more like simplified in things like Yes.
the emotional content, like because yours involves more of like the emotional pieces of what's happening, what your character's thinking, the choice making,
Mhm.
and you know the other one, Good Girl Gone Bad, that was fun, and you know at the end you can do some wild shit, like all of a sudden
Yeah.
it's like endless gangbangs. It was like wow,
Literally, yes.
gangbang after gangbang.
Absolutely. And like if that's what you're looking for, then like by all means,
Yeah.
that probably is the game that you'd enjoy. I think the thing that I noticed that it was kind of lacking that I'm super passionate about is like plot. There wasn't much
Yeah.
of like a story progression or like character progression. It was just more like check these things off of your list for the type of people you want to sleep with or the scenarios you want to end up in.
Yeah.
And so I realized though, as a developer, as I was starting, like, oh, I understand why she didn't put too much effort into that for her. And I think that was her first game too, because it takes so much thought to make a linear story, let alone a story that branches multiple times over, and you have to remember decisions from, you know, chapter 1 that affect in chapter 7 in order for there to be a good payoff. And so there's so much that goes into trying to plot all of that out.
Mhm.
And I'm a Notion girly. I don't know if you use Notion at all, but
Mm.
I absolutely love it. It's like I don't even know how to describe it, but it's a really good like productivity like task. I don't know, sort of dump place that I put everything. And
Okay.
that's how I plot out the game. But if anybody were to look into my Notion board for College Craze, they would think I'm absolutely insane. There's
That's all
more
over the
than
place. Yeah.
it is all over the place. There's more than like, I don't know, I think more than 30 characters at this point with different, and they all have personalities and backstories and all that sort of stuff. And it is a lot to keep track of. So I totally sympathize with you on that when
Yeah.
it comes to your book.
Yeah. You're like, wow, all over the place. Yeah. I mean, we definitely felt like crazy people writing it. So glad we're out of that phase. People are like, when's book number 2 coming out? We're like, well, maybe we'll do a workbook, but we are
Right.
we are far from that right now. Let's focus
Oh
on this
yeah.
one. Yeah. Okay, so I was going to make this the last question, but I want to ask it now because I've always find it entertaining. Because you know we asked this question: how does it feel to know that hundreds, if not thousands, of people are masturbating to the content you create?
You know, it is quite interesting. I don't think about it too often. Because like I said, it's like a whole other aspect of my life. I run other businesses that have nothing to do with any of this stuff. And so turning my brain on to work on the game, I've been so focused on just working on it rather than focusing on like people's reactions to it. Because
Uh-huh.
I think that kind of slows me down and that might trip me up or make me feel less confident about the stuff that I'm putting out there for people sometimes.
Yeah.
But when I do think of it, it's kind of wild.
Yeah.
I so I'm traveling right now, and my mom, she just called me a couple days ago, and she was like, she was on the train and on Amtrak, and she was like, "Oh, I'm sitting next to this young girl. She's about your age, and I was telling her that you make money using computers." Mind you, my mom.
Well, I mean, that's true.
It's true. She doesn't know the full extent of
Yeah.
like all of my businesses and what they do and all that sort of stuff. She just like, okay, my daughter's making money and seems like she can do it from home and uses her computer. That's fine. That's all she knows. But
Yeah.
so she was talking to this random stranger about me, and she was like, yeah, she uses computers and I think she has a video game or something. And my mom called me when she was on the phone, when she was like with this person. She's like, what's the name of your game again? I want to share it with this girl.
Like, okay, this is how I show my mom that I make adult or create a video game that has some adult content in it.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. And this is like my mom, she's an old school, like immigrant mother, no nonsense, like any of that. So I was like, all right, I guess I'll tell you the name of it and you can look at it with this stranger on the train.
Yeah.
So like things like that are very jarring sometimes because it's now like, oh, someone met my mother and they might really fall in love with this game.
Yeah.
But the way they found it is
Yeah,
talking to my mom on a train somewhere. It's crazy.
That's cute. She's doing promotion. I mean, even if your mom tried to play the game, she only tried to play a little bit. Sorry, I have a frog in my throat. She, you know, she just got through like the first couple scenes, like it's pretty tame. It takes a little bit for it to get like real wild and hot and heavy.
That's true. That is
Yeah.
very true. There's a lot of reading involved.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if you don't like reading, then, you might not really like the game too much,
But it's telling a story, which makes it, super, super fun and playful, entertaining, and engaging.
Oh, yeah.
And so, okay, so how do you come up with each? So that this game doesn't just have sex scenes, right? There's
No.
a lot of other things about, like, you're going to school, you have choices to, like, do your homework or go on social media or go out with your friends, and, like, should I go to this place with this friend or this place with this friend, or what job should I get? It's like, it was like, maybe most college people going off to college should play this game. So 18-year-olds, like, there's some educational stuff here, but which we can get to that in a second. But how do you come up with each sex scene? Like, is there a specific process to decide, like, what characters are doing what actions?
I don't have a specific process, but it usually comes down to a couple of different things. On one hand, it can come down to plot. Like, if I know that I need to get somewhere in the plot and them having sex or them being intimate or whatever the case is can help us get to that point in the plot, then I'll come up with a scene that facilitates that. Other times it is character based. So when I first started making the game, my goal initially was to make it so that you could have sex with any on-screen character that you see at some point in the game. That was my initial goal. The next chapter that I'm putting out is going to be the last one, just because I've been doing this for, I think, almost 3 years now, and I have other ideas and projects that I want to work on. And I don't want to start on that until I close this one out. So I'm not going to be able to hit every single character, but for the most part, all of my characters feel pretty well fleshed out, and I have a general idea of what sort of sex that they may represent or really enjoy. And so it's just a matter of, like, okay, if this type of character has a foot fetish, then what is the situation that I can get the main character into that would lead to sex involving her feet? Or whatever the case is, depending on who the character is. So that's sort of the other thread. And then the last thread when I'm coming up with sex scenes is sometimes I am just horny. And I'm like, oh, this would be really hot if this character did this with this person. And the great thing about this game is, since I'm the only one working on it, whatever I say goes. What I draw it,
you don't have to, like, check in with anyone else. You're like, this is how we're doing it.
Exactly. And it comes out, most of the time it comes out exactly how I want it to, which is really nice and liberating from a creative standpoint. There's no back and forth, which is so nice.
Yeah. And so your background is as an artist then?
Yes. Yeah. So I'm in the creative field. Outside of this, I have a couple other businesses that are in that realm. And often I'm working on teams, or running teams or whatever the case is. And so I know exactly what happens to creativity sometimes when you have a lot of stop and go and you have a lot of, hands in the pot to try to create something. And sometimes it is really good and can, obviously more people and teams are a useful thing in the workplace. But other times when you're doing something for fun, at least for me, it's really hard for me to let go of that control if I have a vision and I really want to execute it a certain way.
Yeah. And I've, so I'm on your Patreon and I see that you're pretty active on there, kind of polling people about like, what do you think about this pair with this character and this character? And so, which will lead me to this other question. And I'm curious if you're polling your listeners to kind of decide, or your fans, I guess, to decide what to do. Like, what about the options people can make when there's these, like, choice points that sometimes you to go back to someone's room, or to do my homework, or go on social media. I think it's called Pop Me, which I think is cute. To become a cam model, do or not do drugs, just go to this thing, go to this party or not that party, or this nightclub or not, talk to that person or this person. How do you come up with all of these? Are you asking other people, like, what they're wanting? And is there a chance, this is a multifaceted question, is there a chance you're trying to relay an educational message with the choice points?
So usually when I'm thinking about the plot of the game, I have all of it plotted out. I know what I wanted the ending to be from the start. Some details of it I didn't completely plot out because I like to sort of keep it loose. And so usually a lot of those choices are plot driven, or I'll sometimes I'm writing and I'm like, oh, wouldn't it be cool if I this happened instead. Let's give the players an option and a choice to go off on a completely different branch here.
Yeah.
So a lot of the times it's based off of like what I think would be cool rather than the players. When I first started out, I did flirt with the idea of like, oh, maybe I should poll the patrons on like what type of characters to add next or like what they want to see next in the game. But I realized if I allowed that to happen,
You're
I
going to
might
get so many
feel-
different opinions.
yeah, like
That's a mess.
it would be a huge mess for me. And
Yeah.
I was fearing that like, oh, then it'll start to feel like a job again. And the second that starts to feel like that, this project dies and I can't have that happen. So I wanted to really keep control on that, but just make it, I don't know, just have fun while I'm writing. And if there's an idea that's opposite from what I was originally planning on writing, then just making it like a second choice and seeing what the writing would look like for that.
Yeah.
As far as like the educational piece, I try not to, I don't want to be preachy. I don't want to tell people what to do or not to do. The only thing that I will say or like be kind of preachy on is like, I don't recommend anybody do the things that happen in the game.
You guys, just
know,
entertainment. Everyone is just
Exactly.
entertainment. Yeah.
Exactly. Like do as I say, not as you play.
Yeah.
There's a running joke in the Discord about how no one in the game wears condoms, and like almost every single time you have sex, there's a cream pie
you have
involved.
choices, a lot of them though, to wear the condom or not to wear the condom though.
In the beginning.
Yeah.
Yes, in the beginning when I first started doing it, and then when more and more characters started to come around, and I'm like, I can't draw every single scene with a condom and not a condom. I just know everyone's raw dogging it.
Yeah.
And I made a joke in the Discord saying like, there's free birth control in the water supply, and STIs don't exist in this world.
Yeah, it's a fantasy world, everyone.
It's a fantasy world.
Yeah.
But please stay safe. Don't do things that, but I do think as far as educational content goes, I do think that it's a good way to learn about yourself.
Yeah, totally.
And what you like and what you don't like. I've gotten so many messages from people who've played the game and they've said things like, I've always been curious about this kink or that kink, and I've never felt safe enough to try doing those things with someone.
Mhm.
But doing it in your game like makes me think that, yeah, maybe I might be more comfortable with it. Or I realized like, I don't want to do that at all. And not to say that how I write a scene in the game is how it's going to show up in real life, but at least gives people a peek behind the curtain in a way that they don't need to put themselves in vulnerable positions.
Yeah.
And I'm such a big fan of that. I'm so happy that it's helping people discover new things about themselves. I'm also very happy that I've gotten a lot of messages from SA survivors who have a really adverse to being in sexual situations, period. But they've played the game and they feel really liberated and they feel like a very sexual being without having to include anybody else in on that.
Yeah, totally.
So I'm really happy about that when it comes to education. But as far as like teaching people, how to have safe sex or how to do this or how to do that, the game's not really trying. It's not a good coach.
And that's how, like with porn, right? Porn is for entertainment, is not a teacher, but porn can inspire you to like, oh, I'd never seen that or thought about that, and I'd like to try that. And so that's I guess it's less educational. It's more like adding more things or possibilities to your menu. And for people, whether you like porn or not, but a lot of people don't want to watch porn. This is a great way of playing your game. College Craze is a great way to have that happen without it being porn, and you get to play a game to see these different, ideas and actions that you may not think about, and then you're kind of playing it as if you are that person and feeling into how that feels, and you might be like, oh yeah, that's definitely not my thing, or like, oh, I kind of like that. That turns me on. I'd like to try that. And then the other thing that I was thinking about when I've been playing it is I think it can give people some inspiration for dirty talk, for sexy talk in the bedroom, for like some of the ways things are being said, like some of the lines that go with different energies, right? Because like, some people are having more like kinky sex, some people are having even more like just more like sensual sex. Then there's anal sex, all these things that maybe can give you inspiration on how to like even communicate these things with lovers and partners.
Yeah, absolutely. There's another running joke in the Discord is that like the main character very rarely has sex in her bedroom. Like she gets sex everywhere,
Yeah.
all over,
Yeah.
all over campus, and outside of campus too. So like there's certainly a lot of inspiration in it. I think also it's informational in the sense of like not just sex, but relationship types. Like there's a couple of characters who like the main character, she's 18 years old, but there's a couple of love interests that are older, much older. And you can have a sugar relationship with one of them, you know, that sort of thing. And I think it's also a safe way to explore what those things may look like. And I really try not to like completely sugarcoat everything or make things look like they're the worst thing you could ever do. I try to
Yeah.
keep my morality out of it.
Mhm.
But like the reality is like usually a 50 something year old rich man dating or trying to get with an 18-year-old girl is probably not going to be the most romantic guy. Like he's probably done this a bunch of times before and is not going to make you feel the best. He
Yeah.
might. But in this game, I try to keep there's real consequences for the things that you do.
Yeah.
But I never try to punish anybody for doing anything or like completely reward people for doing anything other than explore. But
Yeah. Totally. Yeah. And then and it seems like most of the games out there are created more for men, for the male gaze. And your game is created for the female gaze, but it sounds like men are playing too, people of all genders. Do you know the demographics of the people that are playing, and like any of the differences that they're saying about their experiences?
I don't know the full numbers, but I can say I typically can guess based off of certain comments, like whether a player is female or male, typically.
Okay.
I think because, like you said, so many porn and sex games out there are targeted for men. You know, anime girls with huge tits and
Mhm.
super skinny, tiny waists and all that sort of stuff. And a lot of those games, there usually isn't a plot. Usually you are playing as a man, or if you are playing as a woman, it's more like you're controlling the woman for your own sexual satisfaction. She
Mhm.
doesn't have feelings, she doesn't have thoughts. She's just sort of some sort of stereotype that you get to play around with. And when they encounter my game, because I know that my game is on sites where those other games are, um, they encounter it, it's not what they're expecting. And sometimes I've gotten really nasty messages from people saying like, this is, you know, why does it take so long to sleep with someone? They're talking too much. Like
Trying to get laid over here.
literally, I'm like, dude, this is not the game for
Yeah.
you. I'm not making this for you. You have millions of games out there
Yeah.
that will do that exact same thing. I'll also get a lot of like people asking, oh, you know, when are you going to make this so that there's a male main character? And I'm like, that's
Uh,
never going to happen. I'm
yeah,
sorry.
that's not your path or inspiration, right?
No.
That's someone else's creation.
Exactly. And like, I always encourage people, if there's something that you really just dislike about my game, then by all means, please make your own. Like, that's what I did with the game that I saw before this. I didn't
Yeah.
dislike it so much that I was willing to say anything to the creator because I could tell she put a lot of work into it.
Yeah.
But I was inspired and I was like, oh, let me take this energy and like make something productive rather than be destructive in comments or DMs or whatever.
Mhm.
So that's like, and I'm not saying all men that play my game are like that, but I've figured that those are typically male game players, and then the female game players that have played the game, I often hear that they have never found a game like this before, and they're so happy that it exists, and that they've been looking for something like this for a very long time,
Yeah.
which is really cool because I'd been looking for something like it before I started making it for a long time. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
You definitely did it. And as someone over here who's got really into it, has played like like I've played it, so like I'm like, what's a new outcome I can create? And it's all like, God, this like, okay, what about a new outcome? It's like, oh, I should have saved that one so I could start from. It's like a whole game. And that in Amy's head, like I like to make things playful, and I like things that are playful, and
Yeah.
I like things that have a story, and I like things that do involve sex and are sexy. On the the people sharing their criticisms, have you received any kind of really harsh negative backlash from people who think it degrades women, or people who have a really hard time with the occasional depictions of coercion at all?
Not necessarily. I think if anything,
Oh, you do say in the beginning, it opens up like there's a warning, I think.
yes,
Yes.
yes.
Okay. Yeah.
There is a warning at the beginning because
Yeah.
there's a lot of, I mean, there's a there, one of the main plots of the game is there's a stalker. Like
Yeah.
there's that happening. There's manipulation, there's coercion, like there's a lot of different things that happen in the game. Some of it is avoidable, and I try to be as like direct as I can without breaking the fourth wall so that
Yeah.
you as a player can make choices to avoid those things. But one thing that like the stalker is in every storyline, no matter what you do. So if you don't like stalking or triggered by that, please do not play the
Do
game.
not play. Yeah.
Yeah, do
Or
not play the game.
call your therapist to see if they can
Yeah.
support you right after. Yeah.
Exactly.
I'm gonna play this game and then I have a session set.
Exactly. Like that's unfortunately that is the one of the main mystery plots sort of things. But
Yeah.
I haven't gotten too much negative criticism of myself or like of the game too much when it comes to that. I have heard from people who are like they're uncomfortable by certain situations or scenarios, but the good thing about it is that the entire game is not painted by that.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, there's like a handful of older men, for example, that you can go after, but you could also just choose not to, and your game experience can be one that's completely free of that if that's something that makes you feel icky, like, oh, older men trying to get with a younger girl. I
Yeah.
get it. Like, some people don't like that sort of stuff. Or if there's characters who literally there's one character in the game that is super sketchy, and characters in the game will tell you, the player, like, this guy's really sketchy.
Mm-hmm.
Don't go with this guy if you don't want to.
Yeah.
And you have the choice as a character to not go with the guy after you've gotten those warnings. So
Yeah.
I think I try to make it so you have control and agency over what you experience. And,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes you can't fully, like, some people don't read into things enough and they end up in a scene that they don't like, but there's always a back button.
Yeah.
And it's not, like I said, it's not indicative of the entire game plot or experience other than being stalked. But
yeah. I mean, there's reality. A lot of things that you name, like stalking, manipulation, coercion, like I've experienced all those things. No, everyone, I was not the stalker, but but I was like, and I was not to the degree of what your character experiences,
Right.
but I was like, there's truth into so many of the things that are happening, or the choice points that can be made. And like you said, right, like if someone is like creeped out by an older man hitting on the younger woman, generally there is an option to not engage with them anymore.
Yeah.
So,
exactly.
yeah, you have some freedom. Yeah.
It's also like having sex with anybody in the game. Like, if there's a character you like, I do not make it super easy to sleep with them. Like, you need to talk to them and choose the right choices in order to sleep with them. So it's not like the older guy shows up on screen, says, hey, you want to get out of here, and you click yes. Like, that just doesn't happen. So you have to make a series of choices to sleep with someone if you want to.
I have a personal insider question. I won't name the names of the characters, but
Sure.
is there? I have not figured out how to have sex with one specific character.
Mm.
Is there a way to have sex with almost every character? Meaning it was like, the flirtatious relation between her and another man, but like I can never figure out the pathway. Do those characters exist? Well, you'll never be able to have sex with them.
At this point, there will be, I think I have like 2 or 3 characters that you will not be able to sleep with when the game is done.
Okay, so it wasn't just me. Okay.
No, it's not just you. If you do tell me the name of the character or describe who they are, then I can tell you whether or not you can sleep with them as of chapter 7. A lot of people you can.
I'll have to think about it and say it off air, because I want to keep the mystery here for everyone.
That's fair. That is fair. I know there's a lot of people have like, there's character favorites. One of the character favorites you finally get to sleep with in this last chapter 7. And people, like, they don't realize how long it took for me to write that scene out, because there are 8 different variations with that character. He is into like BDSM, so there's a lot of like, you can use your safe word and stop the scene entirely, or he can switch things around. There's different locations with that character. Depending on what your relationship is with the character beforehand, he can be a little bit more soft or not. If you're a virgin or not also affects how that plays out. So there's a lot.
Yeah. Totally. Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, cool. Yeah, insider information, everyone. But we're not going to give you all the details and the names. You got to figure it out for yourself. S-
Absolutely.
So, okay. So, what I am hearing from you then is you just released season 7.
Mhm.
And the way people, you can do the free demo when you go to, is it prettyink.com or no, prettyinkgames.com. There's a free demo. And then people can also from there sign up to pay for the game, which is something that you do through Patreon. And there's different tiers in terms of like what you get. So you just did season 7. You're going to do season 8, and then that will be the end. So when you said whatever you create after that, are you going to create something similar, or are you moving away from creating games with erotic content?
Oh no, that's certainly the dream is to
Oh,
just do
awesome.
that for full time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I have, so in my Notion, I have like 6 different game ideas. And for the next one, I'm currently kind of like flirting with plotting things out. I have the general premise, I have general plot beats. I know that I'd like it to be shorter
Uh-huh.
and a lot more contained, but just because it's more contained, I think that hopefully the production value can be a lot better. Because, like I said, I did all of this on my own,
Mhm.
sort of slapped stuff together. I'd like there to be more animations and transitions and more skin tone variability and eye color and hair color and all that sort of
Mhm.
stuff. But just sort of a tighter story, less love interests, and yeah, hopefully I can get team members to help with those aspects of it so I can focus on really making sure that the story is what I want it to be. And then
Yeah.
beyond that, I have dreams for like open world stuff and all sorts of stuff that I know is going to require a much bigger team and a lot more resources, but that I'm not going to front load
Yeah.
right away.
Yeah, that's like later projects. Stick to certain ones for now. When you have more capacity, then
Yes.
dive into the bigger ones. That's what we've been doing over here. A little Shameless Sex has started just as a
Yeah.
passion project and then blew up. So, and now we're always busy. Um,
Yep, that's how it
yeah.
works.
Yes. Yeah. So we've already talked to people a little bit about like how to find the game, but I want to just kind of close with that. Again, everyone, there's a free demo. You don't have anything to lose. And hopefully you like what you see because I sure do or did. Uh, so can you remind our listeners how they can get their college craze on, how they can find you, support you? I know that it's big on Patreon, but I don't know if like social media is a big part. I know you have a Discord. But can you give us all like the links and how to get involved?
Yes, absolutely. So if you'd like to check out College Craze, you can check out the trailer and just read about all the kinks involved and just read about the project itself. You can go to prettyinkgames.com. That's PRETTYINK games.com. I also have a Discord where if you are playing the game, because there are so many branching choices, there's over 1,000. It's very easy to get lost and try to figure out how to sleep with people. So a lot of people use the Discord to get help from others and also just talk about the game.
Uh-huh.
I'm also on Twitter and TikTok and Instagram. And yeah, if you'd like to support after playing the demo, which is hours and hours of content, so you can really play the demo for free for a long time before you
Mhm.
decide to pay for more. You can find me on Patreon at Pretty Ink. You can also, when you are on there, you can get postcards and other merch that are related to College Craze
Mhm.
with juniors and up. So that's, I believe, starts at $12 a month and goes up from there.
Yeah.
But yeah, other than that, if you'd like to support without giving any money, please tell all
Mhm.
your friends,
Yeah.
or your
Totally.
family if you're
Yeah.
comfortable.
Yeah. Yeah. That person that is, like maybe interested in like spicing things up in the bedroom. This is a good thing for them because part of, especially if you're like, I don't really have like a lot of desire or drive, but I wish I did. This is why watching porn can be helpful for people, but playing a sexy interactive game, I found gets my body all fueled up. My partner sometimes when I would play, he'd come over. He's like, "Were you playing the game?" Like, yes.
Oh my
And I'm
gosh.
already like all super turned on. He's like, "I really like that game. I haven't even seen it yet, but I like it." I'm like, "Me too." Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yes. It's certainly great for inspiration. Great if
Yeah.
you ever want to play out a hoe phase that you never had in life and you're
Yeah.
looking at me, this is a great game for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I always like to liken it to, it's like The Sims, but just with a plot and a lot more sex.
Yeah, exactly. Oh yeah. Well, you did such a good job. I absolutely, yeah, just love what you're doing. Loved it from the beginning. I will be sad when season 8 ends, but I know you'll make more. And when you get the seasons, you can just keep coming back over and over again. And like you were saying, plenty hours of content with all these different options. I mean, I haven't even kept track of all the hours I've spent on it, but it's a lot. But it was productive, everyone. Okay. Yes. I was not like it's not an addiction. I wasn't bypassing my work. It's kind of more like, like you're at home and you're like, oh, should I like Netflix? And I was like, or play my game and then probably masturbate and have orgasms. That's my little gremlin voice. I think it's a very healthy choice. So,
I think so too. Yeah. It's a great, it should be a part of someone's prescription, honestly.
Yeah, 100%. I love it. Okay, well, I think we're gonna wrap this up, and thank you so much for coming on our show to talk about. I'd say it was selfish because I really like this game, but also I just feel like with a lot of our listeners, they could really resonate. Whether you're again like wanting more entertainment, more newness, more connection to your body, your aliveness. Just whatever that is to get turned on, and go check out the free demo. Go to prettyinkgames.com. The link will be in the show notes as well. And this was just me today because April has not played the game yet. So I was like, well, now she has to because we've recorded, and I know she'll be into it. She likes getting turned on too. And she likes a good storyline. So thank you to all of our listeners for tuning in to the bonus episode for the month of August, Anal August. And we love you all so much. Don't forget to rate us on iTunes, Spotify, wherever you're watching, because it helps people like Pretty Ink here get their, grow and get their information out, right? This is all supporting, and specifically Pretty Ink. This is a self-employed artist. So yeah, go do it now. And we love you all. We will see you next Tuesday and sometimes on a Friday. Ciao for now.
To learn more, go to shamelesssex.com. And for 15% off some of our favorite sex toys, use code SHAMELESSSEX at purepleasureshop.com.